The first shot cracked. Through the desert heat, before Rowan even reached the market gates, it echoed across the dunes like a warning. Bouncing off the wooden stalls and rusted iron cages, the Wild West had many cruel sounds: whips, drunken laughter, the rattle of chains. But this gunshot was different. It carried fear, desperation, a struggle already lost. Rowan's horse jerked beneath him, uneasy hooves shifting in the sand. He could feel the tension in the air, taste the dust settling on his tongue like ash. Something was wrong, worse than the usual ugliness that clung to places like this. He dismounted slowly, hand resting on the revolver at his hip, and pushed through the warped gate. Then he saw them. 5 Apache women, suspended from heavy wooden beams, bodies bruised, wrists bound above their heads. They hung, not as criminals, but as merchandised. 4 ruthless buyers who preferred their victims weak and silent. Their hair fell like dark curtains hiding their faces. But Rowan could sense the terror vibrating from them, see the trembling in their exhausted frames. And then on the shoulder of the youngest, he saw the mark, a sacred symbol inked in deep blue, the Thunderhawk. Rowan's heart slammed against his ribs. Memories he had long buried rose like ghosts' flashes of fire. A woman's scream, a promise made beside a dying warrior, a debt, a life he owed, a life he had run from. His jaw tightened. The world around him, the jeering traders, the smell of sweat and cruelty faded into a dull, distant hum. Interested in the lot, the slaver barked, stepping in front of Rowan. Cheap today. They won't last long. Rowan stared past him, eyes locked on the symbol, glowing faintly through the dust. "I'll take them," he said. The slaver blinked. "All 5? You're either a fool or a rich fool." Rowan didn't answer. He reached into his coat, pulled out a pouch heavy enough to silence every whisper in the market, and tossed it at the man's feet. Within minutes, the ropes were cut, and the women collapsed into Rowan's arms, barely conscious. He knelt beside them, supporting their weight, trying to meet their frightened eyes. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "I swear it." But even as the words left his mouth, Rowan felt the prickle of danger on the back of his neck, kind that meant someone was watching, following, or waiting. He hadn't just bought their freedom. He had reopened a war. The desert wind had begun to rise by the time Rowan guided the wagon away from the market, carrying the 5 women beneath a canvas cover. The sun dipped low, bleeding over the horizon like a wounded ember, and every mile placed more pressure on Rowan's thoughts. Saving them had been the easy part. Keeping them alive while half the territory now questioned his motives would be the true threat. As the wagon wheels groaned over dry earth, Rowan kept one hand on the reins and the other close to his rifle. He could feel eyes on him, even out here, where nothing should have been but sand and silence. The West had a way of whispering when danger was near. Tonight, it screamed quietly. A soft rustle came from behind him. One of the women pushed aside the canvas, her movements slow, as though each breath cost her strength. She was tall, despite her weakened state, with sharp features and eyes that held suspicion forged in suffering. "You should not have interfered," she said, her voice hoarse yet commanding. "Men who buy lives only bring more death." Rowan kept his gaze forward. "I didn't buy your lives. I bought your chance to choose what comes next." She studied him for a long moment, as if deciding whether his words were another Western lie. "My name is Teanita," she said finally. "The others, they are frightened. They think you will trade us to another master." "If I wanted slaves," Rowan said quietly, "I would have left you where you hung." Teanita lowered her eyes, considering this, But her tension did not fade. Trust was a luxury beaten out of them long before Rowan arrived. After a moment, she spoke again. "The symbol you recognized, the Thunderhawk. You knew it." Rowan's fingers tightened around the reins. "Then, you knew one of us." "I knew someone who carried that mark with pride," Rowan replied, voice grim. "And I owed them more than a debt." Tyanita seemed to understand there was pain behind those words. But she didn't press. Instead, she shifted her gaze toward the horizon. "The men who captured us, they won't let us go. They hunt our children. They hunt us. And whoever stands with us will be hunted too. I figured as much." "You are only one man," she warned. Rowan allowed himself a thin, humorless smile. "Sometimes one man is enough to start a war." The wind picked up, scattering sand across the trail. And then far behind them a faint echo broke through the air. Hoofbeat. Slow at first, growing faster. Rowan didn't look back. He didn't need to. He already knew what was coming. The hoofbeats behind them multiplied, until the sound rolled across the desert like distant thunder. Rowan flicked the reins, urging the horses into a sharper trot. But he knew speed alone wouldn't save them. Whoever followed was skilled moving in formation, keeping perfect distance, waiting for the right moment to strike. This wasn't a drunken posse. This was a hunt. Under the canvas, the rescued women stirred, sensing danger. Tyanita pushed through again, gripping the wagon's frame for balance. "They are coming for us," she murmured, voice tight. "I recognize the rhythm of those riders. They belong to the man who took our children." Rowan didn't answer at first. He scanned the horizon, calculating terrain and timing. Open desert offered no cover, but a jagged ridge lay ahead, broken stone and narrow passes. It wasn't safety, but it was a chance. "We'll lose them in the canyons," Rowan said, steering the wagon toward the rising cliffs. Tyanita frowned. "You risk the women? The wagon will slow you." "I'm not leaving you," Rowan replied. "Not now. Not ever." She held his gaze for a breath, surprised by the certainty in his tone. But the moment broke as a rifle cracked behind them. A bullet struck the sand near the wheel, kicking up a spray of dust. The women gasped, huddling closer together. "Down!" Rowan barked. He snapped the reins, and the horses lunged forward. The wagon jolted violently, bouncing over stones, sending pain through Rowan's wounded ribs, the ones that never fully healed from the life he'd tried to forget. Another shot rang out, this one closer. The riders had closed half the distance. Tyanita crawled to the back of the wagon, peering out through the flapping canvas. 3 riders, no 4. They carry ropes and irons. "Bounty men," Rowan muttered. "Not the worst of them, but close enough." The canyon mouth opened ahead, a narrow slice of shadow between towering rock. Rowan pushed the horses harder. Just as they reached it, a final shot screamed past, grazing the wooden side. The impact startled the lead horse, but Rowan steadied it with a hard pull. They plunged into the canyon. The walls swallowed the noise, turning every hoofbeat into an echoing roar. The riders followed without hesitation. Rowan could hear them splitting into 2 groups, some on the ridge above, some tailing the wagon below. Trapped, but not beaten. Tyanita turned to Rowan, breath quick. "What now?" Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Now we make them regret following." He reached for his rifle. The canyon was about to become a battlefield. The canyon tightened around the wagon like the jaws of some ancient beast, its walls scraping the fading sunlight into thin, trembling lines. Rowan guided the horses deeper into the twisting passage, listening not only to the echo of their hooves, but to the pattern of the riders. Pursuit. The bounty men were spreading out, some above, some behind, trying to trap him the way wolves circle wounded prey. They thought he would crumble under pressure. They forgot he had lived most of his life inside it. A rock shattered overhead as a bullet struck the canyon wall. Pieces rained down, clattering across the wagon's roof. The rescued women flinched beneath the canvas, huddling closer together. Tayanita slid beside Rowan, jaw set, fear hidden behind a face carved by resolve. "You cannot outrun them," she said. "They know these passes. They've hunted here before." "And so have I," Rowan answered, pulling the rifle to his shoulder. He didn't aim at the riders behind them, those men expected to be shot at. Instead, Rowan fired upward at a thin, protruding ledge. The bullet cracked stone, already weakened by time. With a thunderous groan, a sheet of rock collapsed from the canyon wall, crashing down between the wagon and their pursuers. Dust erupted into the air, swallowing the path in a churning cloud. The riders reined back in shock, coughing, regrouping. It bought Rowan seconds, no more, but enough. Tayanita exhaled, impressed despite herself. "You fight like someone who has no wish to live." "No," Rowan said. "I fight like someone who finally found a reason to." Before Tayanita could answer, shouts echoed from above. 3 silhouettes appeared on the clifftop riders who had climbed the ridge to flank them. One raised a rifle, and Rowan reacted instantly. He jerked the reins, swinging the wagon toward an overhang just as the shot fired. The bullet ricocheted off stone, sending sparks spraying. Rowan cursed under his breath. The narrow trail ahead curved sharply, hugging the cliff. One misstep would send horse, wagon, and all 6 lives tumbling into the ravine below. "Hold on," Rowan warned, with every jolt of the wheels. Pain flared down his side, where old wounds still lingered. But he pushed through it, guiding the horses with steady hands. Another shot rang out from above, then another. The riders were adjusting, tracking movement, learning Rowan's rhythm. Soon they'd fire true. A soft voice came from behind him. "We can help." It was the youngest woman, the one with the thunderhawk still faintly visible beneath her torn clothing. Her eyes were frightened yet fierce, as if carrying a memory too sacred to abandon. Rowan glanced back. "Can you shoot?" "No," she said. "But we can warn you. We hear their steps on the stone. We know how they move." Rowan nodded. "Good. Then listen." The canyon twisted again. The sound of pursuit swelled. The next decision would decide whether they lived long enough to see the sky. Beyond these walls, the canyon widened just enough for a sliver of pale sky to spill through, turning the dust into a shimmering haze. Rowan felt the shift. Immediately wider ground meant the riders would push harder. He braced himself as the wagon rattled over a jagged stretch of stone. Behind him, the women listened intently, pressing their palms to the canyon walls. Sensing vibrations Rowan couldn't detect, their whispered warnings came sharp and urgent. Above, to the right, the youngest said, "To riders. They're moving ahead of you." Rowan reacted, steering the horses toward the shadowed side of the canyon. A rifle fired from the ridge, but the bullet hit empty ground where the wagon had been a heartbeat earlier. The sound echoed like rolling thunder, bouncing between the walls. Another woman called out, "3 riders behind. They follow the dust you leave." Rowan cursed under his breath. These were no amateurs. They were skilled, patient, paid well enough to chase a ghost through hell if asked. And Rowan knew exactly who hired men like this. The memory stung like an ember pressed to skin. He forced the thought aside. Focus, survive, get them safe. A fork appeared in the canyon ahead. Left path, narrow and twisting. Right path wide but exposed. Rowan didn't hesitate. Left, he shouted, pulling the reins so sharply the wagon skidded. The horses responded with a desperate leap. The wheels scraped along the stony edge, kicking loose gravel into the ravine below. Tyanita gripped the frame to steady herself. "That path shrinks to one horse's width," she warned. "If they follow, they will corner us." "They won't follow," Rowan said. "Not where we're going." The walls closed in until the canyon became more tunnel than trail. Rowan slowed the horses, guiding them through the passage. It was dark, cool, and suffocatingly narrow. The wagon barely fit between the stone. Every turn threatened to wedge the wheels. But then light appeared ahead. A hidden opening spilled into a basin of pale sand, surrounded by towering red rock. Rowan exhaled. He knew this place. A sanctuary carved by nature itself. Invisible unless one had stumbled upon it years ago, during a life running from sins he never confessed. The women stared in awe. "This place. It feels protected," one whispered. "It was once," Rowan said. Hoofbeats thundered behind them. The riders had found the trail. Rowan leaped from the wagon, rifle in hand, eyes narrowing as shadows appeared at the canyon mouth. He took his position between the women and danger. "Stay behind me," he said, because the hunt wasn't over. But here finally Rowan had the ground on his side. The first rider burst into the basin with a roar of hooves, kicking up spirals of dust as he charged. Straight toward Rowan. The man's face was masked with a bandana, eyes cold, rifle already raised. Rowan didn't wait. He fired once, striking the ground near the horse's legs, forcing the animal to rear and throwing the rider off balance. The man crashed hard into the sand, rolling with a grunt as his rifle skittered across the ground. Before Rowan could breathe, two more riders thundered out of the canyon mouth, fanning apart to flank him. Their precision told him exactly who trained them, men who once rode beside him, men he once trusted. That truth scraped raw against Rowan's nerves like rust on bone. Tyanita and the others crouched near the wagon, shielding the youngest woman with their bodies. She clutched her shawl tightly, whispering something Rowan couldn't hear, perhaps a prayer, perhaps the memory of one. The rider on Rowan's right fired first. Rowan dove behind a cluster of boulders as the bullet sparked against stone. Sand filled his mouth, his lungs, but his mind stayed clear. He peered over the rock, tracking their formation. They weren't killing blindly, they were pushing him into a corner, herding him the way they once herded fugitives across Rowan, Tyanita called, "Left." He swung around just in time to see the fourth rider emerge from behind a boulder, knife glinting in the fading light. The man lunged, and Rowan blocked the strike with his forearm, pain flaring as steel scraped skin. Rowan twisted, grabbed the rider's wrist, and slammed him into the rock face. The knife fell. Rowan didn't hesitate. He struck the man across the jaw, knocking him unconscious. Another bullet hissed past Rowan's ear. He ducked low, moving through the sand with calculated speed. The shooters were closing in, their rifles sinking in a rhythm meant to trap him. These weren't just bounty hunters, they were specialists. He recognized the signals, the way they tapped their saddles, the whistle cue they shared. Old tactics. Familiar tactics. The memories punched him harder than the fight. He had been one of them once. But the man he was then would have watched the Apache women die without blinking. The man he was now would die before letting that happen. Rowan rolled behind another rock as the riders split into two teams. One to draw his fire, one to circle the wagon. His blood ran cold. They weren't after him. They were after the women. Rowan rose from cover with a snarl, firing 2 warning shots that echoed across the basin. "Over here," he shouted, forcing their aim back toward him. The riders hesitated, confused by his recklessness. Tyanita stood then, tall and unbroken despite her wounds, calling out in her native tongue a cry that shook the basin like a spirit's command. The women joined her, their voices rising, creating a wall of sound that startled even the horses. The riders faltered, and Rowan charged. Rowan's boots dug into the sand as he sprinted toward the nearest rider, each step fueled by a mix of fury and purpose that burned hotter than the desert sun. The rider swung his rifle toward Rowan, but Rowan slammed into him before he could fire. Both men crashed to the ground, rolling across the basin in a violent tangle. Rowan ripped the weapon from the man's grip and tossed it aside, driving his fist into the rider's ribs until the man gasped and went still. But there was no time to breathe. Another rider circled the wagon, searching for an opening. The women had formed a defensive ring around the youngest, hands linked, backs straight, refusing to scatter. Their unity confused the rider. For a moment long enough for Rowan to seize his chance, he grabbed the fallen rider's pistol and fired. At the sand beside the horse's hooves, the animal shrieked, rearing violently, throwing the attacker sideways. The man hit the ground with a thud that echoed through the basin. The third rider, the most skilled of the pack, remained mounted. He kept his distance, studying Rowan with a predator's patience. His rifle rested across his saddle, steady, deliberate. When he spoke, his voice carried the cold familiarity of a past Rowan wished he had buried deeper. "You always were predictable," the rider said. "Still playing hero. Still protecting the wrong people." Rowan froze for half a heartbeat. He knew that voice. Cade Mercer, once his comrade, once his friend, now a man whose loyalty had been sold to the highest bidder. "Cade," Rowan growled. "Didn't think you'd crawl this low?" Cade smirked beneath the brim of his hat. "Low? I'm getting paid more for these women than we ever made chasing outlaws." "Times change, Rowan. Men change." "Some don't," Rowan said. Cade raised his rifle. "Shame you're one of them." The shot cracked like lightning. Rowan dove behind a boulder, the bullet slicing a hot line across his sleeve. Cade fired again, forcing Rowan deeper into cover. Sand exploded around him with each precise shot. This was the man Rowan once trained. Beside the one who could shoot the wings off a crow mid-flight, Tyanita stepped forward, eyes blazing. She lifted a stone from the sand, gripping it tightly. "He wants us, not you." "That's exactly why he won't get you," Rowan said. Cade cocked his rifle for a final shot, but the canyon answered before he could fire. A distant rumble, soft at first, growing, shaking the ground. A sandstorm was forming beyond the cliffs, and it was headed straight for them. The sky dimmed as the sandstorm swelled across the horizon, turning the distant cliffs into shapeless ghosts. Rowan felt the temperature drop first, a sudden chill that rolled through the basin, like a warning whispered by the earth itself. The horses grew restless, stomping and snorting, their instincts recognizing the danger long before the humans did. Cade lowered his rifle, cursing under his breath as the wind picked up, pulling at his coat. "You chose a bad day to play savior, Rowan. Storm like that will bury you alive." Rowan emerged from behind the boulder, breathing hard but steady. "Then ride out," he said. "You still have time." Cade's eyes narrowed, studying him with a familiar mixture of irritation and reluctant respect. "You really think I walk away from this bounty? From them?" He gestured toward the women, his tone sharpening. "They're worth more than 10 outlaws. More than you ever were." A surge of wind swept the basin, lifting sheets of sand that lashed against exposed skin. The women shielded their faces, but Tayanita stood firm, staring at Cade with steady defiance. "Our children?" she said, her voice steady despite the storm. "Where are they?" Cade smirked. "Safe for now. My employers keep them alive because fear keeps you obedient. It's business, nothing more." Rowan stepped between them. "You're going to tell us where they are?" "I'll tell you nothing," Cade snapped. "But I'll gladly put you down." Another gust hit, harder this time, bending sparse shrubs nearly flat. The sandstorm's leading edge darkened the sky, rolling like a living wall. Rowan felt each grain sting against his cheek as he tightened his grip on his rifle. "Cade," Rowan said, shouting over the rising wind. "When that storm hits, we all lose. You won't see 10 feet ahead. You won't track us. And you definitely won't get paid." Cade spat into the sand. "I'll take my chances." Rowan raised his rifle not to fire, but to draw Cade's aim away from the women. The two men stood in a tense standoff. Their past stretched thin between them like a frayed rope ready to snap. The wind howled. The basin shook. The storm loomed closer. Tayanita stepped behind Rowan, laying a trembling hand on his arm. "If we stay, we die," she said. "If we flee, the storm covers our path." "She's right," Rowan muttered. "We use the storm." Cade barked a laugh. "Run into that. You'll be stripped to bone." "Better sand than your employers," Rowan said. And then before Cade could react, Rowan fired a single shot into the air. The horses panicked. Sand exploded upward, and Rowan yelled, "Go!" He vaulted onto the wagon as Tayanita and the women scrambled aboard. The horses lunged forward, pulling the wagon straight into the approaching storm, the world ahead vanishing into a swirling wall of red and gold. Behind them, Cade screamed Rowan's name, but his voice was swallowed by the desert. The storm swallowed them whole within seconds. The world dissolved into a raging blur of sand and wind, where sky and earth vanished into the same burning haze. The horses cried out in fear, their bodies pushing forward on pure instinct as Rowan fought the reins, trying to keep the wagon from overturning. Every breath scraped his throat like crushed glass. The air tasted of iron and dust. "Hold on," Rowan shouted, though his voice vanished into the roar. The women clung to the wooden frame of the wagon, their hair whipping like black banners. Tayanita shielded the youngest with her arms, whispering ancient words drowned by the storm, but steady and strong. Rowan saw her lips moving and felt a strange pull, like something older than the West itself had awakened. A sudden gust slammed into them, tipping the wagon sharply. Rowan dug his heels into the floorboards, forcing the reins left, then right. The horses staggered but managed to stay upright, their silhouettes flickering between streaks of swirling sand. Rowan's eyes burned, barely able to remain open, but he couldn't slow down. If they stopped, they'd be buried alive. A heavy crack sounded above them. One of the wagon's support beams, snapping under the storm's relentless force. The canvas roof tore open, sending strips of fabric flying into the gale. Sand poured through the gap, coating everything in a suffocating layer of red dust. "We can't make it," one of the women cried. "Yes, we can," Rowan yelled back. "Just a little further." But even he didn't know what further meant. Visibility was no more than an arm's length. The ground shifted under the horses' hooves, making each step a gamble between survival and collapse. Then through the chaos, the youngest woman pressed her hand against the wagon floor. Her eyes widened. "There is stone beneath us," she said. "Smooth stone. A path." Rowan blinked through the storm. "What kind of path?" "A man-made one," she said, voice trembling. "Long, old." Hope sparked inside Rowan. "The old mining road," he muttered. "If we follow it east, it leads to shelter." Tayanita touched his shoulder. "You know this place. Enough to trust it," he answered. He guided the horses along the barely felt shift of terrain. Bit by bit, the ground flattened. The wind changed direction, funneling along the stone path instead of slamming them broadside. Rowan leaned into the reins, urging the horses onward with whatever strength he had left. Minutes or hours, he couldn't tell passed in the storm's choking embrace. Then a shape appeared through the haze. A dark outline, angled, solid. A structure carved into the cliffside, half ruin, half refuge. The mine outpost. Rowan breathed. "We're here." The wagon lurched toward the entrance, wheels grinding against the threshold. Rowan jumped down, nearly stumbling as he pulled the horses inside. Tayanita and the women followed, shielding their faces until the storm's fury softened behind stone walls. The outpost's stone corridors groaned softly as the storm raged outside, the sound echoing like distant cannon fire. Rowan paced the narrow room lit only by a single oil lamp, the flame trembling with every gust that seeped through cracked boards. The women rested along the walls, exhausted but alert, their eyes shifting to Rowan each time he passed. They sensed the truth he hadn't said aloud. Cade wasn't finished, and the storm wouldn't hide them for long. Tayanita approached quietly, her steps light despite her injuries. She studied Rowan's face, his clenched jaw, his restless hands, the weight he carried like a second shadow. "You are waiting for him," she said. Rowan didn't deny it. "He'll track us the moment the sand clears." Tayanita tilted her head. "You fear for us. I fear what he'll do to get to you," Rowan replied. "Cade doesn't fail missions. Not for money, not for pride, and certainly not for me." Lightning cracked outside, illuminating the room through a narrow window. In that flash, Tayanita saw something she hadn't before: regret, carved deep into Rowan's expression. She stepped closer. "You knew him well." "He was like a brother," Rowan said, voice low. "We rode the borderlands together, survived ambushes, storms, outlaws. But somewhere along the way, he stopped caring who got hurt as long as he got paid." "And you?" she asked. Rowan looked at the women resting nearby, the youngest, leaning against her elder. "Sister?" Eyes closed, hands trembling even in sleep. "I tried not to care," he said. "But I failed at that long before today." A heavy silence settled until the youngest woman stirred. She rose slowly, still shaky from the storm, and approached Rowan with shy determination. She held out a small woven pendant, the Thunderhawk symbol, shaped from strands of horsehair and dyed thread. "My mother made this," she said, "for protection. You should have it." Rowan shook his head. "It belongs to you." She pressed it into his palm. "It belongs to the one who protects us." The weight of the small token struck him harder than any wound. He closed his fingers around it. "I'll keep you safe. All of you. I swear." Before anyone could speak again, a deep rumble echoed through the tunnel. A different sound from the storm. Heavier, closer. Hoofbeat. Rowan stiffened. Tayanita's breath caught. The women silently rose to their feet, gripping one another's hands. The storm outside had begun to die, and Cade was already near. Rowan extinguished the lamp with a swift motion. Darkness wrapped around them like a cloak. "Stay behind the inner wall," he whispered. "Whatever happens, don't move until I call you." Tayanita touched his arm once more, a firm, grounding gesture. "You will not face him alone." Rowan gave a faint, grim smile. "I think that's exactly what he's counting on." Another set of hoofbeats. Then boots on stone. Cade had entered the outpost. The final reckoning had begun. The boots echoed sharply against the stone floor. Each step Cade took slicing through the darkness. Rowan held his breath, rifle in hand, every muscle coiled. The women stayed pressed against the wall, hearts pounding. The Thunderhawk pendant felt warm in Rowan's palm, a small talisman, yet heavier than any rifle, reminding him of the lives at stake. Tayanita whispered, "He knows where you are. He knows everything." Rowan tightened his grip. "Then we'll make sure he learns he cannot have them." Cade's silhouette appeared in the tunnel doorway, calm and predatory. "Rowan," he said, voice even, "you really think hiding can save them? You've always underestimated me." "And you've misjudged me," Rowan replied. "I'm not running anymore." The first shot cracked through the tunnel. Cade fired low. Rowan dove behind a support beam. Sand and grit exploded around him. He returned fire, precise, buying seconds for the women to reposition. Tayanita and the others whispered, passing small weapons. The youngest, dagger in hand, eyes sharp, watched silently. They were no longer just survivors, they were a unit, a family forged through fire. Cade lunged. Rowan met him, rifle butt striking the intruder. They tumbled, exchanging blows as old wounds screamed. Yet Rowan pressed on. A feint from Tayanita distracted Cade, just enough. Rowan drove him back, rifle leveled. "It ends now." Cade froze. Uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The youngest extended the Thunderhawk pendant. Rowan held it up, the symbol catching light. A calm settled over the room, as if the pendant bore witness. Cade dropped to his knees, defeated. "You leave," Rowan said. "Never return." Cade stepped back into the shadows, disappearing into the desert. Silence fell. The women exhaled, relief washing over them. Rowan leaned against the wall, exhaustion sinking into his bones. He looked at Tayanita and the youngest. "We made it." Dawn spilled over the desert, painting cliffs in gold and crimson. Rowan led the women into the courtyard, leaving marks in the sand, a new path, a new beginning. The desert remained harsh, but now it was full of possibility. Rowan held the Thunderhawk pendant tightly. "We start our home here," he said softly. "A family of our choosing." Tayanita smiled faintly. The youngest looked up at him, eyes shining. Together, they stepped into the rising sun, leaving behind horrors and embracing hope, survival, and unity. The desert was still wild, but for the first time, it felt like home. The hall fell silent the moment the auctioneer lifted the last basket, a small woven cradle of red ribbon and pine, the one the townspeople had whispered about all evening. Hannah Whitmore stood at the very back of the room, her gloved hands trembling behind her coat. She could feel the stares before she saw them, sharp, mocking, waiting for the spectacle they were certain she would provide. "Next up," the auctioneer announced, clearing his throat as if the item embarrassed him, "the Christmas supper basket prepared by Mrs. Whitmore." A few people chuckled. Someone muttered, "Probably full of lard." Another voice followed, "Who'd pay for that?" Hannah swallowed hard, her throat tightening. Those recipes had been her late husband's favorites. She had spent the night before, carefully preparing every dish, sealing every jar, tying each bow with hands that longed for purpose. She had hoped just this once, that the town might look at her. with something other than ridicule. Opening bid, $5. The auctioneer tried. Silence. Hannah's heart pounded. $5 was low, humiliatingly low, but even that seemed too much for them. All right then, $1. A few smirks flickered in the crowd. Someone tossed a single coin onto the table like a joke. The auctioneer sighed, picked it up, and shrugged. $1. Any advance? Nothing. Hannah closed her eyes. She told herself not to cry, not here, not in front of these people who were waiting for her to crumble. She forced her breathing steady, preparing to watch her basket her work, her memories staken for the price of a piece of stale bread. And then, "I'll take it." The voice boomed from the doorway, low and steady. Conversations cut off. Heads snapped around. Boots stepped across the wooden floor slow, confident, leaving the air feeling suddenly charged. Cole Brennan, tall, broad, the rancher who rarely attended town events and even more rarely spoke. The man Hannah had once helped after he was thrown from his horse. The man she hadn't seen in months. Cole stopped in front of the stage. "How much did you say the bid was?" $1. Mr. Brennan, the auctioneer, stammered. Cole reached into his coat, pulled out a thick roll of bills, and set it on the table with a soft thud that echoed louder than any shout. "I'm bidding 300. Gasps rippled through the hall. Cole turned his head slightly, his eyes finding Hannah in the back of the room, warm, steady, unshaken by the laughter around them. "And I'll be expecting dinner with the maker," he added. The crowd froze. Hannah's breath caught. For the first time that night, every staring eye wasn't mocking her, they were stunned. The rancher had just told the entire town exactly what she was worth. The hall emptied slowly, but the tension clung to the air like smoke long after the final gavel strike. People pretended not to stare, yet every pair of eyes flickered toward Hannah and Cole as they stood near the stage too. Figures the town wished would simply disappear back into the shadows, but neither moved. Cole picked up what remained of her basket with surprising gentleness, ignoring the whispers swirling behind him. "You didn't deserve any of that," he said softly, adjusting the broken ribbons as though they still mattered. Hannah clasped her hands together to hide the tremor in them. "They didn't mean harm," she whispered, automatically her reflexive defense after years of being talked over, talked about, and never spoken to. Cole raised an eyebrow. "Hannah, they laughed at you." The words pierced deeper than she expected. She looked down, struggling to breathe past the knot in her throat. He stepped a little closer, his voice lowering. "I was on my way to town for supplies when I heard the commotion. By the time I walked in, they'd stripped every bit of pride from your basket." He paused. "And from you." She flinched, not because his words were cruel, but because they were true. "Why would you bid at all?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "You didn't even know what was inside." "I didn't need to," Cole shrugged. "I know your cooking saved my life once, and I know you put your whole heart into this one." A flush warmed her cheeks. The memory of that night flashed quickly, his horse throwing him in a storm, her dragging him into her home, nursing him through the freezing hours with soup and stubborn determination. He left the next morning with a bruised rib and quiet gratitude. She never expected to see him again. "Walk with me," Cole said suddenly. Hannah stiffened. "Walk where?" "Just outside." "You've been holding your breath too long in here." She hesitated, but something in his tone, firm yet gentle, made her nod. Together, they stepped out into the cold night. The wind bit at her coat, but the air tasted cleaner than the suffocating hall behind them. Cole stopped beneath the lantern post, its golden glow spilling over both of them. "Hannah, you need to know something," he said. "I've seen cruelty. I've lived through it. But the way this town treats you, it's not right. And I won't stand by and watch it happen." She blinked at him, stunned by the fierceness in his eyes. "Why?" she whispered. He held her gaze, steady as stone. "Because people should be valued for who they are, not for who a small town decides they're allowed to be." Hannah swallowed hard. For the first time in years, her chest loosened just slightly, like a rusted lock turning, letting in a little light. "Come on," Cole said, gently lifting what remained of her basket. "Let's salvage dinner." "I meant what I said in there." Her breath caught. "Want dinner with me?" His smile was slow, unmistakably sincere. "More than anything tonight." Hannah followed Cole through the quiet, snow-dusted street, each step feeling strangely unreal. She kept her hands clasped tightly together, afraid that if she relaxed even a little, the moment would vanish like breath on glass. Cole walked beside her. Not too close, not too far, but with an unmistakable certainty, as though guiding her through territory she'd never been allowed to enter before. They reached his wagon, where a lantern glowed softly over the bundled supplies. Cole set the battered basket down with the care one would give to something precious. "Let's see what survived," he murmured, opening the lid. Inside, despite the broken jars and torn cloth, several dishes remained intact: a loaf of cinnamon bread wrapped in wax, a tin of herb-roasted potatoes, and a sealed container of her husband's favorite spiced stew. Cole let out a low whistle. "Hannah, you made all this yourself?" She nodded, embarrassed. "I wasn't sure people would like it." "People?" Cole scoffed. "Those folks in there wouldn't know good food if it danced on their tables." She laughed, quiet, surprised, but real. The sound made Cole's eyes soften. He handed her the loaf, then retrieved a wool blanket from the wagon. "Come on, I know a spot where the wind can't reach us." They walked a few steps behind the old church, where a stone bench sat sheltered beneath an archway. Snowflakes drifted lazily around them, but didn't touch the bench. Cole spread the blanket and set the food out as though it were the grandest feast he'd ever seen. "This is far more civilized than the auction hall," he said, sitting beside her. "No gawking, no cruelty, just quiet. And you," Hannah added before she could stop herself. Her cheeks warmed at the slip. Cole didn't tease her. Instead, he took a careful bite of the cinnamon bread, closed his eyes, and exhaled with genuine delight. "Hannah Whitmore, this is incredible." A tiny spark ignited in her chest. "Really? I don't say anything I don't mean." He looked at her then fully, directly, and she felt the weight and warmth of that gaze down to her fingertips. "You've spent so long apologizing for existing. Someone should have told you years ago how remarkable you are." Her breath hitched. No one had ever said such words to her, not without mockery lurking beneath them. Cole continued, voice low. "When you helped me that night after the fall, I wasn't just injured. I was at a point where I wasn't sure I'd get back on my feet. And then you opened your door." His eyes held hers. "You didn't hesitate. You didn't judge. You saved me." Hannah swallowed, unsure what to do with the warmth blooming inside her. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Cole said firmly. "They wouldn't have. Not in this town." Silence settled between them, gentle, comfortable. Nothing like the oppressive hush of the auction hall. Snowflakes drifted through the lantern light, glowing like tiny sparks. Cole looked out at the quiet street. "Hannah, I want you to know something." Morning sunlight crept across Hannah's kitchen table, catching on the wooden grain her husband once sanded smooth. She stood over a bowl of dough, fingers buried in warm flour, though her mind wasn't on the bread. It was still back at the stone bench behind the church, replaying every word Cole Brennan had spoken the night before. "You deserve better. This is only the beginning." The phrases looped through her thoughts, stirring something both foreign and frightening hope. She hadn't felt that in years. Not since before the whispers, the labels, the quiet rejection from nearly every corner of town. Hope felt like a fragile thing, a bird she'd forgotten how to hold. She pressed the dough harder than needed and told herself to stop being foolish. One kind evening didn't rewrite a lifetime of being dismissed. Cole was kind, yes. He'd always been considerate in the rare moments they crossed paths. But kindness didn't change the way the town saw her. It didn't change the way she had learned to shrink, to apologize for her existence, to fade rather than defend. A knock shook the door. Her breath caught. She wiped her hands on her apron, expecting a neighbor or maybe the pastor's wife demanding an explanation for the spectacle at the auction. But when she cracked the door open, the cold morning air rushed in, and with it, the tall frame of Cole Brennan. He stood under the awning like he belonged there, holding a small wooden crate. "Morning, Hannah." Her pulse stumbled. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine." His smile warmed the cold air. "I brought these for you." He handed her the crate. Inside were fresh eggs, a jar of honey, and a bundle of rosemary tied neatly with twine. Items too carefully arranged to be a casual errand. "I didn't order anything," she protested softly. "I know." Cole rested a hand on the doorframe. "But I figured you might want to finish the supper we didn't get to last night." Heat rose to her cheeks. "Cole, you don't have to." "I know," he repeated gently. "But I want to." She stepped aside without thinking. He walked into the kitchen like someone stepping into sacred space, respectful, noticing everything. His gaze paused on the dough, then on the little jar of spices her husband once used. Hannah expected pity, judgment, curiosity, anything but the expression he actually wore. Admiration. "You've been up since dawn," he said. She shrugged. "Old habits." "Good habits," he corrected, brushing a thumb over a stray streak of flour on her forearm without realizing he'd done it. The touch was brief, accidental, but it sent a warm jolt up her arm. Hannah quickly turned back to the counter, trying to hide the storm inside her. "If you're staying for dinner," she said, "I suppose I'll need your help." Cole's smile widened. "Hannah Whitmore, I'd chop wood for you if you asked." She froze. The words echoed through her chest like a church bell. And for the first time, she didn't look away. Cole rolled up his sleeves without hesitation, moving to the sink to wash his hands. The simple acts, so domestic, so ordinary, felt impossibly intimate in Hannah's quiet kitchen. She watched him for a moment longer than she meant to, noticing the way sunlight caught the faint scar along his wrist, the same one she'd stitched years before when he'd arrived at her door bleeding and barely conscious. "Tell me what to do," he said, drying his hands on a cloth. "I'm better with livestock than ladles, but I'll follow orders." Hannah blinked herself out of her daze. "All right. You can start by cutting the vegetables." She handed him a worn wooden board. "Carefully. That knife's sharper than it looks." "Noted," he said, holding it with exaggerated caution. She laughed, soft and brief, but enough to make him glance at her with a grin that reached his eyes. As he chopped badly at first, then with growing confidence, the rhythm of their work settled into something comfortable. She kneaded dough. He sliced potatoes. She seasoned the stew. He fetched water from the pump. Every so often, their arms brushed, sending little sparks across her skin. Neither acknowledged them, but both felt them. At one point, Cole paused mid-cut, turning his head toward her. "Hannah, were you all right after the auction? Truly." Her hands stilled. She hadn't expected the question. Everyone else in town preferred when she stayed silent. Pretending nothing was wrong, pretending she was nothing. But Cole waited, expression open, patient, steady. "I was embarrassed," she admitted finally. "But I've been embarrassed before. I'm used to it." "You shouldn't have to be used to it," he said, his voice low and firm. She exhaled, looking down at the stew simmering gently. "People talk. They always have. I can't change them." "No," Cole agreed. "But you don't have to carry their cruelty like it's a burden you owe them." Hannah swallowed hard. "I don't know how not to." He set the knife down gently, leaning one hand on the counter. "Start by realizing this. Their opinions don't define you. They don't get to." His gaze softened. "Not while I'm around." Something inside her tightened, like a string pulled too sharply and then loosened all at once. She looked at him, truly looked, and saw not a rancher offering charity, but a man who meant every word he spoke. Before she could answer, a sudden knock rattled the front door. Hannah stiffened immediately, instinctively stepping back, wiping her hands on her apron as though preparing for judgment. Cole noticed. "Stay here," he said quietly. But she shook her head. "No, it's my home. I'll answer." He nodded, though concern flickered across his face. Hannah crossed the kitchen, each step shrinking the warmth of the moment they'd just shared. When she opened the door, the bitter wind rushed in, and so did Mrs. Harrow, the mayor's wife. Her lips pursed into a thin, disapproving line. Mrs. Harrow stepped into the doorway without waiting for invitation, her boots snapping against the wood like accusations. Hannah gripped the edge of the door, forcing her breath to stay steady. The woman's eyes scanned the kitchen, lingering on the simmering pot, the half-cut vegetables, and finally on Cole, who stood with arms folded, jaw set in silent warning. "So it's true," Mrs. Harrow said sharply. "You've allowed a unmarried man into your home, after the spectacle you caused last night." Hannah flushed, but Cole spoke before she could find her voice. "She didn't cause anything. Your town did." Mrs. Harrow's glare hardened. "This is a private matter, Mr. Brennan, one that concerns community standards." Cole's tone stayed calm. "Funny, I didn't know cruelty was a standard worth defending." Hannah's pulse hammered. She stepped slightly between them, not wanting the situation to escalate. "Mrs. Harrow, we were only preparing a meal. That's all." The woman sniffed, folding her gloved hands. "Appearances matter, and your choices reflect poorly on the morality of our town. People are already talking, Hannah. Many believe your behavior is inappropriate for a widow, especially one with your reputation." The familiar sting hit Hannah like a slap. Reputation, the word the town used when they wanted to shame her. Without saying it aloud, Cole took one step forward. If reputation means she cooks, minds her own business, and treats people better than they treat her, then she ought to be the pride of this place. Mrs. Harrow's nostrils flared. "She is a burden, Mr. Brennan, a disruption. Her presence at the auction embarrassed us all. And this," she waved a hand toward the kitchen, "is only adding to the problem." Hannah swallowed hard. She had endured years of comments just like this. But somehow, hearing it now, after the fragile hope, Cole had given her hurt worse. "Mrs. Harrow," she said quietly, "I've done nothing wrong." "That depends on who you ask," the woman snapped. "The council is discussing your situation. There will be a meeting tomorrow, and I strongly advise you to consider how your actions are making things difficult. Cole's eyes darkened. Difficult for who? For all of us, Mrs. Harrow hissed. This is a respectable town. We cannot have widows inviting ranchers over like human beings sharing a meal. Cole shot back. Her face reddened. I've said what I came to say. She turned to Hannah, voice dripping disdain. You would do well to think about the consequences of your choices. Hannah felt her heart fold in on itself. Mrs. Harrow swept out into the cold, slamming the door behind her. Silence fell heavy and suffocating. Cole exhaled slowly. Hannah, I'm not letting them do this to you. But Hannah wasn't sure the fight was one she could win. Hannah sank into the nearest chair, her fingers twisting the fabric of her apron as if it could anchor her to something solid. The kitchen, warm moments ago, now felt cold and too small. Cole stayed standing for a moment, shoulders tight, watching her with pain flickering across his expression. She had no right, he said quietly. She had every right, Hannah whispered, staring at the wooden floor. She's on the council. They decide everything here. Who gets help? Who gets shamed? Who belongs? Her voice cracked. I never belonged. Cole pulled a chair beside her and sat slowly, giving her space, but refusing to leave her side. They don't get to decide your worth. But they do, she said, forcing herself to meet his gaze. You don't understand how this town works. They've hated me since before my husband died. They hated him too, for marrying me. They talk about my size, my house, my clothes, everything. And now they'll use you to punish me more. He shook his head. Hannah, listen to me. No, she said softly, surprising herself with the force in the word. I can't let you get dragged into this. You've already done too much. Too much. Cole leaned forward. I've done hardly anything. You've lived years under their cruelty. I've seen it from the outside, but now, he raked a hand through his hair. Now I see exactly how deep it runs. Hannah looked at her hands. They were trembling. I just wanted to make a basket. To contribute. To be part of something for once. She swallowed hard. And now I'm being called immoral. Cole's jaw clenched. You're one of the most decent people I've ever met. That woman walked in here to intimidate you. She thinks fear keeps people obedient. She's right, Hannah whispered. Cole stood abruptly, pacing the length of the kitchen with restless energy. No, she's not. Fear only works if you're alone. He turned back to her, eyes burning with conviction. And you're not alone anymore. The words struck deep, knocking the breath from her chest. Cole, you say that now. But when the council calls a meeting, when the pastor starts whispering, when the neighbors refuse to speak to you, let them refuse, he said. I don't live to please them. But I live among them, she reminded him. I walk past them every day. I buy food from their shops. They already judge everything I do. Her voice trembled. You don't know what it's like to be the town's joke. Cole lowered himself to one knee beside her chair. Not out of romance, out of earnestness. Out of urgency. Hannah, he said gently, look at me. She did. Those blue eyes held nothing but steady, unwavering truth. I don't care what they say. I chose to walk into your house. I chose to bid on your basket. I chose to stand by you. Every step I took because I wanted to. Not out of pity, not out of obligation. Her throat tightened. Why? Cole hesitated for the first time, not from uncertainty, but from the weight of the words he was about to speak. The council chamber felt colder than the winter outside. Hannah stepped through the doorway with Cole behind her. every whisper dying instantly. The long wooden table, the polished chairs, the stern faces, it all seemed arranged to make her feel small. Mrs. Harrow sat in the front row, arms crossed, already savoring whatever punishment she imagined would come next. The mayor cleared his throat. "Mrs. Whitmore, we're here to address concerns regarding your conduct at the Christmas auction and the impropriety some citizens believe took place afterward." Hannah forced her shoulders back. "Impropriety? I cooked a basket, delivered food, and went home. There was nothing inappropriate." A murmur spread through the gathered crowd. Hannah felt their eyes scraping over her like cold metal. Mrs. Harrow leaned forward, voice sharp enough to cut. "A widow should behave with dignity. Allowing a man into your home, entertaining him, there are standards in this town." Cole stepped forward before Hannah could reply. His voice was calm, but carried like thunder. "She welcomed someone who needed help. That's kindness, not misconduct. If you can't see the difference, the problem is your standards, not hers." The room rustled with surprise. Even council members exchanged uneasy glances. The mayor tried to regain control. "Mr. Brennan, please. We ask that you refrain from interruptions." Cole didn't move. "If the interruptions stop the unfair treatment of a good woman, I won't refrain from anything." Hannah felt her pulse pounding, but not with fear this time, with courage. "I have lived under this town's judgment for years," she said. "Every whisper, every laugh behind my back, every time someone used my weight or my widowhood to belittle me. But none of that gives you the right to drag my name through the dirt because I dared to share a meal with someone." A few of the younger townsfolk shifted, visibly uncomfortable. Someone in the back muttered, "She has a point." Mrs. Harrow's face reddened. "You are undermining the values of this community." "No," Cole said sharply. "She's exposing the hypocrisy of it." For a moment, the whole room froze. The mayor stared at Hannah as though unsure what to do next. She met his gaze without flinching. "I refuse to be treated like I'm a disgrace," Hannah said, her voice steady. "I won't apologize for being kind. I won't apologize for existing. And I won't accept punishment for something that only offends the narrow minds in this room." A heavy silence settled. The strength in her voice left no space for immediate response. It was the first time she'd ever spoken to them that way, and it showed. Cole moved slightly closer, standing at her side like a wall. "You're not breaking her today," he said quietly, but everyone heard it. For the first time, Hannah felt the power shift. She wasn't the trembling woman they expected, and they weren't as untouchable as they thought. The council chamber remained painfully still after Hannah's words, as if the room itself didn't know how to move. The mayor sat rigidly, fingers tapping his unused gavel, searching for a response that wouldn't crack the tension. Mrs. Harrow recovered first, her voice sharp as frost. "This town cannot function if widows begin challenging order," she declared. "Your boldness is disruptive, Mrs. Whitmore. The council must preserve morality." Cole stepped forward before the mayor could answer. "Your morality is nothing more than fear dressed as virtue. And you've weaponized it against her for years." The crowd stirred, uncertainty spreading like a slow current. Hannah sensed hesitation in their eyes, something she had never witnessed before. The mayor lifted his chin, though his voice lacked its usual authority. "Mrs. Whitmore, the issue is not solely the auction. It is the pattern of controversy surrounding you. A pattern created by gossip, not by me," Hannah answered calmly. "You judged me before you ever spoke to me." Cole nodded. "Because she was the easiest target. A quiet widow, an isolated one. And you used her silence as permission." The truth landed heavily. Even a few council members shifted in their seats. Hannah continued, her voice soft but unwavering. I tried to fade into the background. I tried to be what you wanted. But you still found reasons to shame me. So I'm done disappearing. Mrs. Harrow stood abruptly. This is insubordination. We cannot allow a woman, especially a widow, to speak to us this way. Hannah met her glare without flinching. Then maybe you should decide why honesty threatens you more than cruelty. A ripple moved through the crowd. The mayor looked visibly shaken, wiping sweat from his forehead. We cannot reach a ruling today, he finally said. This situation needs further review. Cole's voice cut through the air. Because you didn't expect her to stand up for herself. And now you don't know how to punish someone who isn't afraid of you. The mayor had no reply. Hannah felt a surprising stillness within her, steady, grounded. She had walked in expecting humiliation. Instead, she had reclaimed her voice. Whatever you decide, she said, I know my worth now. And it no longer comes from this council. Cole rested a reassuring hand at her back. The room watched them silent, unsettled, changed. As they stepped into the hallway, the heavy door closing behind them, Hannah released a long breath. The cool air felt like freedom. You were incredible, Cole said quietly. I was shaking the whole time, she admitted. But you didn't let them see it, he replied. You stood your ground. And for the first time in years, she believed him. Whatever the town chose to do next, she would no longer face it alone. Snow fell steadily over the quiet main street as Hannah and Cole approached the small stone church. A year had passed since the council tried to shame her. A year since their rushed wedding in this very building. Yet tonight felt entirely different, warmer, as if the town itself had softened. Hannah rested a hand over her rounded belly, feeling the steady weight of the life growing inside her. Cole noticed and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You doing all right? She nodded with a small smile. Just a little nervous. It's strange coming back here like this. Not as an outsider, he said gently. As my wife. As the woman this town finally learned to respect. Hannah wasn't sure the town had truly changed, but she knew she had. The timid widow who once avoided every set of eyes was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, willing to claim joy instead of apologizing for it. As they reached the doors, faint laughter drifted from inside. The annual Christmas auction was already underway. A year ago, her basket had been mocked and dismissed. Tonight, she carried another one carefully prepared, tied with a crimson ribbon, filled with recipes she once believed no one valued. Inside, people turned as the couple entered. To her surprise, the looks weren't cold. A few neighbors even smiled politely. One young girl waved shyly before being ushered back to her seat. Hannah felt the tension in her chest ease just a little. Pastor Ellis stepped down from the small stage. Hannah, Cole, welcome. We're glad to have you here. The sincerity in his voice startled her. She murmured a soft thank you as Cole guided her toward a bench near the front. Hannah set the basket on her lap, running her fingers lightly across the ribbon. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from the strange pressure of being seen as someone who belonged. Cole leaned closer. Whatever happens tonight, we walk out together. Same as last time. She smiled. This time feels different. Because you're different, he replied. And they can see that. The auction continued through several baskets, each greeted with warm applause. Hannah watched quietly, remembering how invisible she once felt in the same room. Now, people occasionally glanced her way, curious, respectful, no longer cruel. When Pastor Ellis finally called her name, a hush spread through the hall. Hannah rose slowly, Cole steadying her arm as she stepped forward. She expected whispers, but none came. Only stillness. Pastor Ellis lifted the basket for everyone to see. A contribution from Mrs. Hannah Brennan. Her heart stuttered. They used her married name. No hesitation, no smirks. Cole squeezed her hand once before taking his seat. Hannah stood tall, breath held, waiting to see what the town would do. The church fell silent as Hannah and Cole reached the front, the soft glow of candles warming the winter shadows. Snow clung to Hannah's veil like delicate pearls, and Cole's coat still shimmered with melting flakes. Despite the cold, the room felt full of breath, hope, and a sense of something shifting in the town. The pastor stepped forward, voice steady but touched with emotion. "We gather, not to judge, but to witness a union built on courage and kindness." His gaze lingered on Hannah. A moment longer, as if apologizing for the silence of the town that had hurt her for so long. Cole took Hannah's hands. His palms were warm, grounding. "You saved me long before you ever knew it," he said quietly. "You gave me a place to belong. And I promise, for the rest of my life, you'll never face the world alone again." Hannah felt tears rising, but she didn't shy from them. "I thought I was invisible," she whispered. "And you saw me. You showed me that I was enough, even when I couldn't believe it myself." Her voice trembled, but the strength behind it didn't falter. "I may not have much, Cole, but everything I have, my heart, my home, my loyalty is yours." A few people in the pews wiped their eyes. Even those who once whispered about her now watched with softened expressions, their assumptions unraveling with every word. The pastor nodded gently. "Then, by the vows spoken here today, I proclaim you husband and wife." Cole didn't hesitate, he pulled Hannah into a kiss that was tender but full of certainty, like a man claiming the life he'd always wanted. The crowd erupted into applause, hesitant at first, then growing, filling the small church with warmth that pushed out every cold memory she carried. When they turned toward the aisle, the room seemed transformed. Neighbors who once avoided her gaze now offered shy smiles. Mrs. Harrow, red-faced and fuming near the doorway, slipped out before the applause faded, but Hannah didn't spare her a thought. For once, the weight of judgment no longer belonged to her. Outside, the sky had cleared, revealing a stretch of stars glittering above the church. Cole wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close against the crisp winter air. "This is our beginning," he said softly. Hannah leaned into him, hand resting over the gentle curve of her belly. "Our beginning," she echoed. For the first time in years, the words didn't feel fragile, they felt true. Snowflakes drifted around them like blessings, settling on a world that finally seemed willing to let her breathe. And as they walked home together, Hannah realized she wasn't stepping into a new life. She was stepping into the life she had always deserved.